So it has been over 4 months since I've last posted on YouTube, and this is hands down the longest break that I've ever taken. And since then, a lot has happened within the space. For starters, we just saw one of the biggest crypto liquidations in history happen a few weeks ago, wiping out over $19 billion. Prior to that, we had Bitcoin, stocks, and even gold running for new all-time highs. Now, at the time of filming this video, there's been a pretty big pullback, and many investors and traders aren't really sure of what's going to happen next. So ladies and gents, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what's been going on and show you exactly how I'm positioning myself going into 2026. To do this, we'll first dive into why Bitcoin is pumped and why it seems like markets all around us have been pumping, yet altcoins, cryptos, and others are still lagging behind. Then I'll be going over the key drivers that I believe will fuel the next crypto bull run, and I'll go over the exact conditions we need and the likelihood of that happening to give you the best bull case and bear case to ensure that you're able to capitalize on both sides. After that, I'll cover the new market trends that I see are creating the best asymmetric opportunities, both in crypto and outside of crypto. Most importantly, I'll be sharing with you then the exact narratives and projects that I think have the most potential over the coming months. Finally, I'll then share with you my step-by-step action plan for this market, including when to buy, when to sell, and how to manage risk along the way. All right, this is going to be an action-packed video. There's going to be so much value, and honestly, I think the amount of info and research that went into this episode here is going to be our finest yet. All right, so to start this video off, let's go over the biggest headline pretty much in the history of crypto, and that was the crash of October 10. All right, so this crash here was so bad that we saw over $19 billion get liquidated pretty much instantly. Many of the altcoins, even in the top 100, were down anywhere from 30% to even upwards of 70% or more. Since then, a lot of it has recovered, but it's nowhere near where we were previous to where the crash happened. Now, it's reported that over 2,000 crypto traders ended their lives because of this crash. I'm not sure about the validity behind that, but I do know that there were some well-known crypto bloggers who ended up losing a lot of money. This is just a reminder, if any of you guys are ever feeling that emotional about your bags, just realize that you are way too overexposed into the markets. I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the video, so that never happens to any one of our viewers here. But there's definitely still a lot of learning lessons we can draw from this event. Number one, this was actually a bigger liquidation event than we saw back in 2021 with FTX and even Terra Luna. Now, the reason all this happened was because China had put export controls on rare earth minerals, and in response, Trump announced he would impose an additional 100% tariffs on all imports from China. Now, that would have been in effect on November 1st. And by the way, this isn't the first time we've had talks on tariffs, but what was really interesting is although this wasn't even set in stone, it ended up pretty much wiping out most of the market. Now, at the time, open interest was near all-time highs, and almost entirely all of it was long. What that means is pretty much any stress signal could mean there's a domino effect, which is exactly what we saw. Now, as prices were dropping, long liquidations were getting triggered, stop losses were going off, but that wasn't the actual reason why we had such a massive crash. Basically, when volatility spikes and market makers, which are the guys who normally keep the order books filled to manage the buys and sells, they're the ones that ended up selling because they didn't want to incur a big loss. Now, although it seems like everyone lost money from this event, it turns out that's not the case. Someone actually opened a brand spanking new fresh wallet and opened a massive Bitcoin short 30 minutes before Trump's tariff announcement, and they made over $88 million. So what does this all mean for us? Well, I believe we're going to see way more liquidations still happening in the future. If you are a trader, just make sure that you always set a stop loss, but not only that, diversify your portfolios across different exchanges. I use 10 plus different exchanges, and I'll create sub exchanges underneath of those accounts. I think this is incredibly important, especially in the case if you ever get hacked or one account gets locked or something might happen, a forced liquidation event like the one we saw, you wouldn't lose your entire portfolio. The second lesson here is that the markets did end up recovering pretty fast after that crash. So it's important that you always have firepower on the side. In moments like this, when you get a large liquidation event, more times than not, it is a fire sale. It is an opportunity for you to be able to buy up the dip and be able to capitalize on pretty much a massively discounted market. Now, the third lesson here is that there are still a lot of inefficiencies in the crypto space that tend to benefit more of the top 1% and continue to make this game a bit harder for the rest of the participants. participants. Look, I think most can agree that this market is not easy. The last 4 months have been quite challenging, and for most to create a consistent profit, I'd say you're gonna have to be like ultra locked in, because even some of the most locked in people I know, they've been struggling to still make consistent profit when the market is this choppy. Now, there is a Twitter thread that I came across last week, the liquidity vacuum of crypto's $19 billion collapse. I think this is well done. I noticed those little long hyphen things, so maybe it's a bit of ChatGPT. Regardless, a lot of value. TLDR, we are going to see it happen more. And until there's a new incentive model for market makers, it's just going to be the name of the game. Another thing you could do to prepare is always just have some kind of hedge ready. When markets continue to move up, Bitcoin is breaking all-time highs, but it's getting rejected. That is a place where you can consider entering a low leverage short, so that in the case markets do dip, you at least get some kind of exposure both sides. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, and that is really mainly for our traders rather than our long-term investors. Regardless though, I think it's good for all of you to know how to play both sides of the market rather than just playing it one directionally. I mean, that's how I used to always play the market, and it's not great when things are only down. Now, with that recent liquidation event, I do think that we're getting closer to that easy mode that we've been waiting for so long. If you guys go back to my last video, yes, the one that feels like it was posted in the ancient times, I did even mention back then that I was more bullish on Q4 going into Q1. If it's not Q1, it's got to be Q2. And if it's not Q2, gotta be Q3. And if I'm wrong again, I can just say I was talking about the next Q4, not this coming one. I mean, that's how the game tends to be on YouTube, right? You're always just calling the shots and trying to create the best prediction you can. Now, why do I believe markets could go up? Well, let's go over all those reasons. But before we do, let's talk about some context on why Bitcoin even recently broke that all-time high. Remember, if we want to see easy mode turn back on, where alts are all running, we're all getting euphoric, everyone's happy, meme coins are going crazy, we still need Bitcoin to be pumping, or at least relatively holding its all-time high break price. All right, so first things first, the federal government cut interest rates for the first time in 2025, and that's initially what caused Bitcoin to rally. Look, I think too often, more than not, people are trying to align the stars, and they got all these different reasons why things can move. I like just keeping things simple, and it usually tends to work out when you just left curve it. Don't really gotta think twice, and that is interest rate cuts and just seeing how broader markets are performing. If you take a look at this chart here, it shows that when there is typically a rate cut, Bitcoin does rise in price. This is because rate cuts signal the first time that money is getting cheaper again. What I mean by that is that if you are a business owner or an investor, it becomes cheaper for you to borrow and even just spend more money knowing that you can take on more risk. Second reason, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, they were ripping all-time highs. Now, this was mainly fueled by tech stocks and a lot of hopium on the whole AI and robotics bubble. But generally, when you see S&P and NASDAQ doing well, Bitcoin will follow along suit. Another reason too is that global crypto ETFs, they pulled in billions of dollars of net inflows. Take a look at this tweet here. Crypto funds saw a record $5.95 billion in net inflows last week, and this surpassed a previous record by over $1 billion. In between that time, we've had companies announcing DAT treasury plays, similar to what Michael Saylor was doing with MicroStrategy, and then we saw this happen with Ethereum, with Tom Lee and BMNR. Now, it looks like the bubble has at least popped for now. Who knows if it's gonna pick up once again. I think if Ethereum breaks all-time highs, meaning Bitcoin's gonna have to break all-time highs, and we have money flowing once more, we could definitely see some of these DAT treasury companies picking up steam once more. But at the current moment, things have just been going down. In the last few months of me even just being off of YouTube, I got exposure to one of the DAT treasury company plays. I put in close to $1 million of my own money in there. So, you know, obviously I want that stuff to do well, and I am still bullish on it long term, but markets are kind of cooked like a little bit. All right, another reason why Bitcoin was going up was because since last January, we've had more and more publicly traded companies continuing to own Bitcoin and increase their holdings. Now, something that we've been talking about for many, many years is always regulation. Regulation is so important. It's what helps crypto get that mass adoption and what allows retail to feel more comfortable while markets expand. Well, ever since the Trump administration came into office, they ended up revoking a ton of those executive orders focus on central bank cryptocurrencies, and they replaced them with a digital asset team and passed multiple pro-crypto acts. We'll talk a bit more about that later. We had the Big Beautiful Act, the Clarity Act. There's actually a few more things that a lot of people don't really know about. But right now, we are amidst during one of the most pro-regulatory crypto environments that we've ever seen before. And I think a lot of people are still sleeping on all the things that are coming out. Now, one of the last few reasons why Bitcoin has been going up is because geopolitical tensions are also slowing down. For as long as I've been alive, there's always been war going on. I mean, most of you guys have probably seen the Free Palestine signs or even the Israel signs. Look, when we live in our bubble and you're not living in a war-stricken country, you might not think this is relevant, but when it comes to even investing, this stuff matters. When you want to seek a euphoric and just incredible time in the market, generally there is at least some sustainability happening between countries and their wars. At the time of filming this video, there is some peace being made between Israel and Iran, but knowing the trend of how things have been, I think that's a bit temporary. But at least for now, it gives the market some more breathing room so that there's less headlines about missiles and drones and all this stuff flying in the air. All right, so now that we covered just some of the reasons why Bitcoin has been going up, let's talk about what we should expect going into 2026. For starters, we do have more rate cuts coming, and I believe this is one of the most important factors out of everything mentioned. Now, this is important because the Federal Reserve's main job is to keep the US economy stable. When the economy starts to slow down, the Fed obviously steps in, it gives it a boost, and right now it's showing that job data is not getting much better. Here in the States, it's getting a lot harder for people to find a job. Unemployment is going up. So to control this, the US federal government uses monetary policy, which is basically adjusting the interest rate and money supply in order to help boost up the economy. So as we mentioned earlier in this video, when they cut rates, it makes borrowing money cheaper. So right now the rate is at 4 to 4.25%. In 2025, we've had one rate cut. Right now we have speculation we're going to get a second and a third rate cut on the way. Now with those two additional rate cuts, it looks like the markets are already pricing it in. So if we get any news that maybe the second or third rate cut might not happen or might get prolonged, those are headlines that's going to eat away at the market. Remember, the markets are always forward thinking. Historically, it is always better to buy the rumor and then sell the news. What this means is when the rate cuts do happen, it's at that point when you want to sell. And it's at the time when you already get confirmation that rate cuts are coming. As far in advance as you can, that's when you want to buy in. Let's also not forget that Jerome Powell's term is over in May of 2026. Trump has made it clear that he wants to replace Jerome Powell, and he is not satisfied with his more conservative approach. So most likely, Trump will be replacing him with a pro-growth and pro-liquidity candidate. We have three candidates here. We got Chris Waller, Kevin Warsh, and Kevin Hassett. Chris Waller is a lot more market friendly. He supports stablecoins and is against CBDCs, which is good for the broader crypto markets. And he's likely to continue rate cuts and also modernize payment, which is good for liquidity in crypto. We got the former Fed governor here, Kevin Warsh, and he is also favored by Trump. He is focused on keeping the economy strong and is also seen as a pro-business candidate. And Kevin Hassett, he's also a strong advocate for lower rate cuts and growth policies. I personally believe all three of them would be much better candidates than Jerome Powell if we're trying to get more rate cuts and also see stimulation happening in our economy. So at this point, you got to realize the stars are aligning. You got more liquidity coming into the markets through rate cuts. If stocks continue to do well, obviously that's definitely going to be a factor into why crypto is going to pump. But number four, as we discussed earlier, regulation. So the Trump administration, they passed three big acts. Number one was the Genius Act. This came out a little while ago, but this here was a framework for stablecoins and digital asset markets. More specifically, the Genius Act created clear rules for USD-backed stablecoins like USDC. As a result, we saw more US banks and fintechs which can now legally issue and custody stablecoins. The stablecoin market is definitely going to be a meta for the next upcoming bull run. There's a lot of money that you can generate from that. Crypto has already shown massive use case because you need a stablecoin. You need USDC if you ever want to get exposure into Bitcoin or any of these other alts. The second act, the Clarity Act, and not surprising to the name, this gives further clarity on crypto securities and commodities. So because of this act, the SEC can't just go after crypto companies and projects like they did in the past. If you guys remember XRP or Ripple, that case dragged on for 4 years because there was not any clarity on if XRP was a security or not. Really looking back at it now, I mean, some of this stuff was crazy. People were getting sued, exchanges were getting well notices and SEC violations and lawsuits all over rules that weren't even established. Following that, we also have the market structure bill, which is working its way to go into effect. And this here goes one step further than the Clarity Act. So while the Clarity Act actually defined which assets are securities and commodities, the market structure bill builds the actual framework around that. So for years, the SEC and the CFTC have been fighting over who actually controls crypto, because at the end of the day, guys, the reason why the government does not like crypto is all for control. Crypto is not something that they can have their whole hand on. And if the government can't control it, they're not going to like it. The SEC says tokens are securities, while the CFTC says they're commodities. Like, even right now, there is still a lack of clarity between what crypto is, what some stable coins are. This bill here will finally split the power between the two, so everyone clearly knows the rules and that there are definitive measures set in place. Not only that, but we're finally going to get some clear standards for exchanges and digital asset companies. This means how they register, how they protect customer funds, how they disclose financial information. And the main goal out of all of this, though, even though it is so that they can have more control, it is on the argument it's to prevent another FTX collapse and make the US a safer and more trustworthy place in a very free market like crypto. Clear structure means potentially less lawsuits. It means more transparency and hopefully more confidence from institutions and retail that, frankly so, I think have been sitting on the sideline for years now. Look, after the whole FTX crash, I think a lot of people are still hesitant on getting into crypto. And it looks like people who are in crypto right now are just the ones who have stuck around longest. But I don't really see new participants still coming into this market, mainly for the fact that it's a big learning gap. The current participants are only getting smarter, and there isn't enough liquidity where easy mode is turned on and retail is able to make money, because ultimately that is the reason why they would come in and why they'd stick around. All right, so where are we with regulation now? Is it still in a work of progress? When is it going to be over? Just how it works in the government? Decisions take a long time being made. Things move a lot slower than we wish it can. Regulation is still developing now. With that said, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, said, "I've never been more bullish about clear rules for crypto." And he came out the video just talking about how he's the most excited he's ever been for this industry because our current administration is putting the right measures in place versus with our last administration, it wasn't looking too good for crypto. I mean, looking back, Gary Gensler was all over the timeline on crypto Twitter pretty much every single month. The SEC was always suing someone. Nowadays, you're not really hearing about that anymore because it shows that they're doing work instead of just trying to enforce by punishment, and rather this time work together with companies, work together with investors so that the rules are fully set. Because of this new approach, we're even seeing the doors open for tokenized treasuries, including BlackRock getting more into crypto and other funds that are just getting a bit more comfortable managing tokenized assets. It was even just a few months back, Robinhood had announced all their plans for being into the crypto space. So there's a lot of things moving, including prediction markets, real world assets, things that back in 2021 were simply just narratives of speculation of what could happen, where this time around, the rules are getting set in place so that speculation is now turning into reality. You also combine that with the fact that Wall Street, they are salivating over crypto. It seems like we have a lot of catalysts in place. We just need money to start flowing. Whether it's Fidelity, Citadel, JP Morgan, or some of the biggest other banks and players and family offices, everyone is quietly launching and expanding their own crypto division. Now, I don't think regulation is going to be what sets off the next narrative, but for sure, when all the different catalysts line up and we start to get some more runners and Bitcoin maybe goes on another awesome move up, the regulation that gets established is what's going to allow for things to scale even higher and go harder for when it does end up picking up. All right, so what does this all mean? Well, right now, I believe we're entering the most explosive part in a cycle with all these macro conditions that are turning risk on. Money's getting cheap again with the rate cuts. Things are flying. The stock market has been moving. There are bigger narratives right now with the whole AI robotics scene. Companies have been accumulating more and more crypto. The regulation narrative is lining up to look pretty good. And even things like gold have been running. Now, the argument here with gold is that when gold goes up, it's actually not a good sign. But if you understand macros and the fact that the dollar is just weakening and a weaker dollar is better for us to start seeing different assets move. What that means is just because gold is running doesn't mean that everything else in the market has to crash. So right now, many people are still hedging against inflation, and the value of gold, it hasn't changed. It's just the fact that the dollar is weakening up. Look, Trump even said this in an interview, but we don't want the weakest dollar, but we don't want a strong dollar either. Generally, the right condition for us to see that catalyst of the next altcoin season or easy money turning on within crypto is that you have a dollar, it is on the weaker side, and you simply have more liquidity flowing around. All right, so here are the action items on what you can do knowing all that info. Well, number one, I don't think this is a signal for you to be fully risk on yet. Although it seems like the trend is things are moving up, you want to still make sure that you conserve and you have enough firepower for when the easy mode officially turns on. I think the most important thing, especially because I know most of my viewers are retail, you guys are working with a finite amount of capital, solvency, aka just having money around for the longest duration, that is ultimately what's going to allow you to win this game of being an investor, a trader, or just taking advantage of these markets. When you're buying into the markets with very little to no conviction, you're buying emotionally, you haven't done research, you really want to avoid trying to gamble and front run some of these bigger moves. Instead, I think the better move is to just wait for confirmation. For me, that's as easy as waiting for Bitcoin to break its all-time high once again, and we start to see liquidity re-enter crypto. At the current moment, I mean, look guys, I could be completely wrong. We could chop for an indefinite period of time, or maybe some headline comes out that market rate cuts aren't happening, or there's some big war that breaks out and it just completely wipes off the table and then we're in the next recession. Nobody actually knows. When you study the biggest players in the game, a lot of them just react. Yes, you can have people who speculate and predict which way markets go, but generally, even for those players, they have so much solvency, they have so much capital lined up that even if they are wrong, they have multiple lives as if they're in a video game and they just kill one life and they got 100 more. As retail, you lose when you lose your ability to invest. So, big thing right now, most of you guys should continue to stack your active income. This is money that is coming in every single month. You should be averaging into the market slowly and waiting to deploy for when things really turn back on. The last thing you want to do is gamble during these times, lose all the money that you have, because easy mode, I have personal conviction that it will turn on once again. Whether it's next month, end of Q4, Q1, it will come back on. It might be shorter than before, it could be longer, but your goal here is to make sure that you have enough money to play during those times. You also have to realize that the problem with retail, many of them want to continue to chase those absolute home run dingers. Look, man, stop going for the home runs. Just hit the ball consistently. The rich win by stacking small wins that compound. Here's the thing, they just have enough capital where a 5% gain ends up being pretty enormous if they have 10 or $100 million that they're investing. For retail, if you end up doing that with $1,000, which is how much capital you have, it's not going to amount to much. Unfortunately, you have to just stack the small wins in the beginning until over time that bag continues to grow. The people that I see get wiped out are always the ones who want to chase that fast money. They end up being impatient. And honestly, that's how you end up staying in the rat race of just struggling with poverty or struggling with your lower or middle class income. You have to learn to be patient and realize this is a long game and it takes years and years for people to find success. Some of you guys want to do it in a matter of weeks. So more than anything, just focus on progress and focus on just the slight continuous improvement over time. I love this verse here in Proverbs 13:11. Regardless of if you're a believer or not, if you read the Bible or not, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. So just keep in mind, guys, fast money is not even everlasting. If you make a bunch of money, make $1 million at once, and you're not emotionally ready to be able to accept that, statistically, most lottery winners end up losing that money because they are not ready as an individual to hold that amount. All right, now we're about to go into the juicy part of the video, guys. For anyone who's eager to start front running or at least knowing what narratives can come up, here is that take. Right now, we are in a global debt bubble, and the only way right now to sustain all this action that's happening is for us to keep printing money. This is also one of the reasons why gold has been going up, and it will continue to go up for this year. I think think gold in the next 1 year is going to be well worth over $5,000. Let's see if it's going to hit $5,000 before Ethereum does, because right now it is more valuable, especially knowing that the dollar used to purchase it is just getting more and more weak. All right, so I know you guys are super eager for this part. Let's talk about the narratives. Let's talk about the tokens. Let's talk about the different plays that I think are really going to start heating up. All right, so first of all, the major action over the last month has all been happening within the Binance ecosystem. Some of you guys know about Binance. You might be early users of it. They have their exchange, they have Binance.us, they have their global platform, but Binance has easily been the strongest major that is up now over 100% year to date, even flipping XRP in market cap and pushing towards new all-time highs. Now think about their token BNB like the Apple of crypto. They got their hardware, which is their exchange, they got their software, which is their DEXs and wallets, and their distribution, it actually is mainly in Asia and Africa, with Asia being one of the top dogs just because how crazy degenerate my Asian brothers and sisters are over on the other side of the world. What's been happening is Binance is taking up a lot of liquidity in the space, but not only has their main token been running, but we've been seeing a lot of their ecosystem plays going up too. So the reason all this started is because CZ, the co-founder of Binance, who by the way is not even CEO anymore, he resigned that position, but he's still been super active with reigniting the activity with ecosystem buybacks and heavy marketing. Look, Binance's volume dominance has jumped over 18% across all their DEXs. They've had over 100,000 wallets bridged to the Binance Smart Chain, which is their ecosystem, that are over 70% in profit according to on-chain data. And even like meme coins on the Binance ecosystem, they were all running crazy amounts. So this all started because of that buyback model. This right now has been the meta in crypto. One of the first companies to do this was Hyperliquid, where they essentially said, hey, we get a bunch of this supply unlocked, we are going to burn it and we're going to buy back tokens. So we're going to sell our profit, our money, so that we can help the price of this token go up. So here's what I believe next. As long as BNB keeps momentum, they keep printing new all-time highs, I believe we're going to continue to see some of those meme coins also go up. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of this action is mainly being driven by Asia, which is also a good signal that there is opportunity before US begins to enter. Now keep in mind, it's pretty PvP in Asia, and generally it seems like US or some of these North American markets end up being liquidity for Asia, but it's not to say that things can't keep going up. If we have a big mover that continues to just buy back their supply and force the token price go up, that there has been a strong enough catalyst for us to continue to see some of these runners. All right, so here are some of the plays that you can be on the lookout for. Aster, it's already gone up. It's taken up huge mind share on crypto over the last 2 months, but this is a new perp DEX that was launched in September. This here is Binance's attempt at taking over what Hyperliquid was dominating in the market. Right now, they are the #1 DEX in volume and collecting fees, and the coins that are getting listed there are exactly what's been pumping. All right, another play. This is an OG one, okay? This is PancakeSwap, also known as Cake. This here is one of the oldest decentralized exchanges on Binance. They also introduced a fee burning and buyback mechanism. PancakeSwap is already up over 115% on the year, and their trading volume jumped up over 180% as people were trying to rotate back into BNB ecosystem plays. Now they have close to $3 billion in total value locked, and if Aster also continues to be the new high volume, DEX and Cake is literally going to be the backbone feeding it. Now I know I got a lot of degens watching this video. Some of you guys don't want these higher market cap play coins. I get it. I'm with you. So for anything I'm about to mention here in this part of the video, just know that it's super high risk. All of this stuff is gonna crash one day. And overall, things are still pretty high risk until we get liquidity really just coming back into crypto. So just know this one's higher risk, but this is a meme coin called 4 that CZ has been talking about for a while. So he started this whole trend even 2 years ago. May the 4s be with you. So here's the thing about this meme coin. It's not just a meme coin. This project here is where all the Binance meme coins are also being launched. So think about the next pump.fun of BNB surpassing Pump in revenue. And right now, there's just a lot of speculation that they're also going to turn back the buyback system that we've seen Binance and even PancakeSwap do. Not only that, it seems like CZ is just pumping up many things. There have been several coins that he followed, that he put into his bio. So currently during this season, while things are still chopping, it looks like right now the things that he's interacting with, it is the meta, because he has no problem buying up supply, and pretty much his version of putting a couple little dollars here and there is like millions of dollars for how much he's worth. Here's another pretty high risk play. This one is called Pup. I always think there is going to be some kind of dog coin that picks up. Obviously, we saw how much ski went up when base was going up. So I like trying to find just a dog narrative coin. This one went up. It pretty much crashed. Risk reward looks good from that standpoint, but obviously just always do your own research. But it seems like right now in terms of asymmetric opportunities, there is something here. Also, the puppy is cute. Freaking adorable, man. I love cute dogs. All right, the next play here is also World Liberty Fi. Now look, this one has not been doing well in price action, but I think there will get to a point where the narrative picks up once more. A lot of people have forgotten that World Liberty Fi, their stablecoin is on Binance. I have conviction that they're going to have their moment again with this coin, whether it's through buybacks and they start moving up the momentum, or for the fact that it just ends up being a good BNB beta play. As long as Binance continues to take up mindshare while things are still chopping, these are at least some of the plays that I think have some decent upside. All right, the next narrative to be on the lookout for is Base. All right, so look, I've had my own fickle relationship with Base. I mean, we rode this narrative so early on. If I'm not mistaken, I think we were one of the first creators to really nail it. We got into Aerodrome at 11 to 14 cents. We hit Degen. I mean, we hit a lot of Base related plays and had multiple 10, 15, 20, 30 X's. Since then, I haven't been that excited about Base. I mean, I love what Coinbase has been doing. It's a really interesting relationship. You know, sometimes I love what they're doing. Sometimes I think they can do a much better job. So here's where you can capitalize on next. I think right now, Coinbase is really considering coming out with their own token. For the last few months, Base has been quietly heating up again as on-chain activity, builder programs, and even the speculation of a token is coming in. Jesse Pollock and Brian Armstrong are both pretty active. I think over the last few months, though, Jesse has not had the best reputation within the crypto space. Seems like Brian Armstrong has been tweeting more, and he's been doing a bit of a better job with some of the PR on his account. Now, both of them have hinted at a possible token. Take a look at this tweet that was made just a few weeks ago. If you have ideas, feedback, hopes, or dreams for our exploration of a Base token, send them to this account. We shared this openly so we could listen and learn from all of you, and I've been blown away by the input in just the first few weeks. Shortly after that, Base acquired the @Base domain handle, which is often a signal of tightening the brand. You know, probably costed a decent penny. We had to pay $40,000 for the @Kaizen handle on X. I can't imagine this would have been any cheaper. And my speculation is, yeah, they could just probably have wanted that. But this is the first step that they would also need to take in order to drop their own token. Now, upon some more research, we actually went through Coinbase's job applications and even saw that they were hiring for a token governance specialist. Take a look at this here. Base is planning to bring 1 million developers and 1 billion users on chain. We need your help to make that happen. We're looking for a token governance research specialist to join the Base business operation and strategy team. In this role, you'll shape the long-term token and governance strategy for Base, ensuring it evolves as a credibly neutral, decentralized public good while maintaining its mission of building a global on-chain economy. Now, shout out to our Kaizen research team, but all this points to me that they're taking the exact steps on them looking to launch a token. Combine that with the reasoning that they never came out with the token in the first place is because they didn't want to overstep all these regulatory rules and all this confusion that Gary Gensler had. Right now is a clean slate. I don't know what's actually holding them back from doing this. So I think if Base does release a token, this is going to be huge for the ecosystem. And I think we're going to be able to see Base season 2.0 happen once more. Right now, Coinbase is heavily pushing Base across social media, and their creator incentive program, it is impressive. They updated their apps. They're adding so many more features, and although I think it could still use some improvement, if this all ends up happening where Base ends up dropping a token, you're going to want to focus on quality projects on Base already. So look, none of this is going to be anything new. A lot of these plays I've already bought. I've sold most of them. Some of them I'm re-entering, but you want to focus on things that have done well. Look, Aerodrome, it's always going to be a play if you want to get some kind of exposure to Coinbase. It's the core decentralized exchange. People need to use Aerodrome when they start swapping on all the other meme coins. And because this is their DEX, I really doubt that Coinbase would allow this to fail. Now, you're not going to see huge risk reward on this, but generally when Arrow runs, it usually runs pretty hard. After this, there's always a few memes that I choose. A lot of memes on Base. Some of them have done well. Some of them have already been listed on Coinbase and have been moving up in price. There is one that has only been going down, which I think has insane risk to reward at this moment. Look, this is still rather speculative, but we've seen how hard Ski Mask Dog has run in the past. Even with the price of this not doing so well, I think Ski Mask Dog has one of the strongest communities in crypto. With just any asset, even outside of crypto, even stocks, there is a point where certain projects or companies and assets become oversold. I truly believe out of all of the projects I talk about, this one has been oversold by far. When Coinbase picks up, this fits the dog narrative, something that I've liked and I've talked about many times in the past, and I think this could easily be another runner once more. It's still high risk. It's still just a meme coin. I've had my exposure in it. I know a lot of our members in Kaizen have exposure in it, but let's also not forget the biggest catalyst that has still not yet happened on this project, and that is a full-on Coinbase listing. Now, you can buy this on Coinbase with their DEX, but if this gets momentum, if this gets volume, I believe with all the upside we've seen in the past and then the possible Coinbase listing coming out, which is now even closer than ever before, this has some of the highest potential. All right, one last coin that's going to be Morpho. This is a lending protocol. This is not a meme. This is a utility project. And it's not just an average base related project. They had over $1.4 billion in total deposits. I think DeFi is always going to be around. I think loans is always going to be a big supporting factor in that. Coinbase has crypto-backed loans that are now generating over $250 million in active loans being given out. I mean, if you take a look at this graph here, it is just up only. The data is not lying. I think this is a project where currently at its market cap, there is still some potential. All right, so those were two of the bigger narratives that I can see heating up. But in terms of more individual projects, if you guys are looking to diversify your portfolio or just have a few altcoins that you have more conviction on, for me, it's going to be Pump Fun and Hype. Most of you guys should already know what Pump Fun is, but they are a launch pad in order to create a meme coin in seconds. Now, every time a new coin launches or trades, there are small fees that are getting collected in Pump. What Pump has been doing is they're taking those tokens, they're burning it and removing it from circulation. Remember that whole buyback meta thing I was talking about earlier? This is exactly what's going on. And they've done almost $140 million worth of buybacks, and they continue to burn millions of dollars worth of pump every single week. So regardless of what narratives do, I don't like to fight economics, okay? If someone is burning supply and demand stays the same, asset will move up. This year is constant deflation, which increases scarcity. Things will move. So I think Pump.Fun is still like the Robinhood IPOs for memes. I think people are going to continue to use it. I don't see it dying off, and it has been one of the most active and talked about platforms in all of crypto. Next, we have Hyperliquid, one of the fastest growing exchanges in crypto history. It's fully decentralized perps DEX. So you can short, you can long, you can use leverage, but in under 90 days, this project here passed $100 million in revenue, which is the fastest to ever do so. To put that into perspective, companies like Airbnb, Uber, or Robinhood, it took them way longer than that to reach their first $100 million in revenue. Hype ended up doing that rather quick. And not only that, but Hype right now, they are generating over $3 million in daily buybacks and are constantly removing supply from circulation. So the pace of these buybacks is really the equivalent of Michael Saylor going even more bananas when he was buying up Bitcoin back in the day. And at this rate, the team buybacks model shows that they're on pace to repurchase their entire token supply within the next 3 to 4 years. Look, Robinhood made around $1.5 billion in net profit during Q1 and Q2 of 2025. Hype actually made the same amount, but Robinhood is 9 times bigger in valuation of that company. Hyperliquid is proving that on-chain trading can outperform traditional finance, both in growth and profitability. This is one of the clearest examples of real fundamentally strong companies during this new crypto meta. Right now, the annualized profit on Hype is sitting at around $1.4 billion, which actually beats OpenAI on net income. You know, I was at a business conference recently. The numbers are so crazy in crypto. I see people who are in sales, insurance, they got to work hard for their money. And then I see people in crypto, they do 1/10 of the amount of work that people in some of these other industries do, yet they can generate so much more. Hype is an example of that. They're a decentralized exchange. They got less overhead. They got less features. They just do what they're doing well. They're one of the first movers, and they've been able to make a ton of profit from that. All right, guys, so we just talked about some of the bigger plays that could pick up, but here are some that have not even launched. What everyone's speculating is going to be the next Hyperliquid is Lighter. So Lighter is another new on-chain layer 2 perp DEX that's been just getting a ton of mind share. This has low latency, less friction, and more importantly, they don't have a token just yet. It's still in pre-launch, but people are already farming for the airdrop, similar to what we saw with Hyperliquid. Now, one of the reasons why Hyperliquid also had headlines is because we had people get millions of dollars in free airdrops. Their airdrop was crazy. And there's speculation that Lighter is going to be around the same. Now, because many people want the next Hyperliquid, obviously the Lighter airdrop is going to be devalued when you have so many people trying to compete for it. But I think this is one of those that you can definitely be on the lookout for. Right now, it's estimated that one Lighter point is going to be worth $100. This puts Lighter at a potential valuation of about $8 billion. Now, the Lighter team's dope. It's led by the founder. His name is Vlad. I think anyone named Vlad, they're like just beasts in the space. And this guy has won both the International Olympics in Informatics and the International Physics Olympics, which are the same elite competitions that Vitalik Buterin came out of. This guy went to Harvard and graduated in 5 semesters at 18 years old. I mean, he's not as smart as me, right? I went to community college and graduated in 4 years, but he's darn close. Anyone who's almost as smart as me, I'm willing to bet the bag on. All kidding aside, this guy has a lot of talent. He was also personally recruited by Ken Griffin, the current CEO at Citadel, where he was also a portfolio manager running high-frequency trading algorithms. All right, this guy has had his time. I'm not gonna go over his whole background, but it is severely impressive. So Lighter is gonna be one of the first zero-fee trading exchanges built directly on chain. No fees means more traders, more liquidity, and more people just staying active. If you guys wanna have a link to sign up to try and farm some of those points, I will link it down below. I also have a link to some of the other future exchanges that I personally use with Blowfin and BitUnex. All of them are gonna give you some kind of incentive bonus. It's gonna give you either money or a discount on your trades. If you're looking to get into trading, first of all, don't do it if you don't have any systems. We're gonna come out with those videos soon enough, but I have those links for you guys to at least look into it and get started. Now, something else that has not yet dropped, something that we've been talking about since our last upload is Abstract. So in the case that you guys don't know who Luca Nets is, this guy is a legend. Luca went in, bought the domain for a dead NFT project for a couple $1 million and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar brand called Pudgy Penguins. Look, Pudgy Penguins have been killing it. Their NFT price floor is still at over $30,000. They did a massive airdrop, giving out tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars back into the crypto ecosystem. Their meme coin Pengu is still worth over billions of dollars. And in the last few months, I've only been seeing ABGs everywhere with like Pudgy Penguin, blow up doll, Pudgy Penguin toys. Their marketing is insane. If you ever look up a GIF, you have penguins there. This guy knows what to do. This guy knows how to market, and I have full faith that Luca is going to make this project massive. So Luca and his team have been building Abstract. It's another layer to make crypto feel a bit more Web 2-like. Their goal is to onboard millions through content, culture, NFTs, DeFi, but the most important thing about Abstract is that it is frictionless, and that's the one thing I hate about crypto. With this, if you want to onboard your grandma, your mom, you can do it with an Apple login, a social login, but you don't need any seed phrases, and it's gasless. So Abstract actually pays for your first transactions, it's fast, and it's made for people who just want to get onboarded easily. Look, in a crowded space like crypto, what I find myself most bullish on is often the founders and their team. I've met a lot of CEOs, I met a lot of founders just being in the position of where I'm at today. I had the chance to also even meet Luca, and just seeing his energy, seeing his vision, his passion, and his commitment to this game. I am so incredibly bullish for what they are building. So right now, there is no token at the moment, but it is rumored that they are going to drop something going into the end of this year or even 2026. Now, when Abstract launches, I think we're going to see a massive retail wave coming on board. At the current time, you can earn XP through early user actions, similar to what people are doing with Lighter. They are trying to farm for this XP, which is going to turn into more tokens for when they do drop. Not many things in this life are free, but when it comes to airdrops in crypto, that is literally free. All you do is put in some time, follow the rules. We have a whole private Discord community where even one of our analysts is just constantly dropping airdrop plays, breaking down how to get into it, what to do, and the upside that comes with it. All right, so those are all the big plays to be on the lookout for. My next video will go over more of those higher risk plays, but I at least wanted to reset the board since it's been a while since I came out with the video for you guys to at least have some good awareness on forward-thinking moves, things that are developing that I really think are going to take the biggest amount of mind share in this space. To wrap this video up, let's talk about execution. So right now, I think we're in a very unique spot. Bitcoin is above $100,000 at the time of me filming here. I mean, that is probably subject to change. Right now, things are losing a bit of steam, but one thing's for sure, and it's that we still have not yet seen that classic altcoin euphoria yet. The way I'm playing this market is I want confirmation first. I will continue to buy up some of these majors that I have longer term conviction in, but in terms of some of these other altcoins, you can front run it now if you've been sidelined. But I think one of the most important things that you can do is really just build your own edge, build your mindset during these times. Look, I had a whole thing on like when you guys should buy, sell, and exit. But what I've come to realize is that in this space, the rules are different based on who you are as an investor, how big your bag size is, how much you can pay attention to the charts. What you can't go wrong with is dollar cost averaging into things that you have true conviction in, setting a good take profit strategy, never get overly greedy. And when easy mode does turn on, you guys should be fully locked in. The most important thing out of everything is if you're not feeling confident in the market right now, you don't need to just be blindly buying in. I think the smarter move is to wait for the confirmation, wait for easy mode, or if you really do feel projects are going to move up, get your active income up and then start buying in slowly. Now, guys, I'm still more bullish going into December and January of this year, but obviously everything is still subject to change depending on how broader market conditions develop. Regardless, having firepower and cash and just feeling comfortable and not being too overexposed in the market is, I think, one of the best things that you can do. If any of you guys feel any anxiety or, you feel like you're always losing, that is such a good indicator for you to reflect as an investor. What is your strategy? What is your system? Right now, we got AI where you can really dive deep. You can use it as your own coach, your own therapist, and help you to figure out a game plan that you can stick with. Remember, the key to winning in this space, it is just about consistency, and it's realizing even what your weaknesses and strengths are. If you tend to FOMO in, realize that. If you tend to not take profit or get too greedy, what are different systems that you can do to combat that in the future? There's so many things you can do. All right, so guys, I hope this is the start to more videos. I'm probably going to change up the setup in the next upcoming upload. In the meantime, guys, a lot has changed in my own life. You guys follow me on Instagram. You guys know I got a kid on the way, which is crazy news. We've been building up Kaizen. We're working on software right now. I'm super excited for the upcoming future. If you guys want to hear more from me, I'm active every single day in our own private community. If you don't want to join that, you can also join our free newsletter. We have 60,000 subscribers on there where every single morning you can get up to date on the most important news in crypto. The link for all of that will be down below in the description. Check out the warm-up. Our team works on it every single day. I think it's one of the best crypto newsletters to exist in the entire world. So I'd love for you guys to join there. And if you want more access to me, be sure to follow me on X and on Instagram. All right, I love you guys. I hope I'm not gone for another few more months. I don't think I'm gonna be. And I hope the markets really pick back up. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.